Is that right?
There you go. Hello, we're now on the record for the October 11th, 2021 Public Works and Finance Committee meeting. And so let's kind of go through our agenda here. We have Gary Riedner sitting with us. I have Ann Zabala here as well, and Art Becky. And so the first one is the approval of the Public Works Finance Committee meeting minutes from September 27th.
Look good to me.
Look good to me, too. Consent agenda. Okay, we have a change on the number 2. Gary Riedner is going to introduce that issue. It's the disbursement report for September 2021.
Thank you. As you indicated, Sarah was called away, so I'll be filling in for her. Bills this month, a total of $2,243,446. As large as that is, it's a fairly unremarkable month. We didn't have any huge bills. Major expenditures were 2 bills regarding the remodel of the Haddock Building, one for furniture and one for a pay request for the remodel. The Hamilton Low Aquatic Center structure replacement, $67,000, and then 3 vehicles, one for water, one for police department, and one for parks, for a total of major expenditures of $337,822. So as I said, pretty unremarkable. Certainly answer any questions I'm able to, but other than that, our largest expenditure, as always, is payroll at $1,118,576.
Any questions?
It's pretty clear construction season is winding down.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, it's on the consent agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, number 3, well house number 6, bid results. Scott Trigger.
Good afternoon. So we put on this project. This is for well house number 6, which is the well out at the city shop out there. The existing building itself is definitely old, kind of falling apart. So this is to upgrade it, bring up to more current standards. At the same time, also updating the electrical system, adding some efficiency to it and flexibility of what we can do with the pump. Putting in an on-site chlorine generation system instead of the old chlorine gas system. And then installation of a backup generator, because that current site doesn't currently have a backup generator. And that backup generator itself would also then work with the city shop as well. So we put this project out to bid September 4th and 11th. We only had one bidder respond to it. It's that time of year late in the season where a lot of contractors are trying to wind down. The engineer's estimate, which is Welch Comer that designed this project for the city, their estimate was $641,019. The one bid that we received was from Quality Contractors for a total of $987,630, so quite a bit difference right now. I did talk with the contractor, and they said that's just kind of where they feel the market's at right now. So our recommendation, knowing that we've got other projects coming out here pretty soon, is to reject the bid now, and as we get ready to package up and put our other projects out here in January timeframe, is to repackage it and put it out, see if we can get some better bids.
Will you change what you're putting out there? Are you going to alter it in any way? Or
I think
just
we-
hoping that someone else gets a,
We might look at making some minor changes to it, but at the same time, we have much larger projects of similar nature going out at the same time. So that'll help to draw in some additional contractors from other places. We have typically worked with about 3 or 4 other contractors that either come from further south or come down from Coeur d'Alene area that usually give us some pretty good prices on everything, so,
we hope we do better the next time.
yeah.
Okay, any questions?
Nope, I'd say reject the thing and wait for the market forces to come back into play, hopefully more in our favor next time, and see what we can come out with. But any time, from what I've seen in the past, when you've only got one respondent, things are usually not so good,
Yeah.
so.
Okay, consent agenda?
Sounds good.
Consent
Thank you.
agenda.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so number 4, and it's a memorandum of understanding with Moscow School District for SRO program. And Chief Fry is here to talk about that, as well as Gary Reedner.
I'm glad you want me to.
Go ahead.
As you know, the past 18 years, we've had a MOU with the school district for an SRO. A couple years ago, we actually had 2 SROs, but due to the COVID funding and stuff, we went back to one where we split the cost of the one SRO. And through that time, our contract has been coming up, due, I think, in October here. So we are trying to renew that, and we would like your approval to renew the 50% financial burden on both the city and on the school district.
If I can add to that a little bit, historically, a couple, 3 years ago, we were approached by Moscow School District wanting to take the single school resource officer and have 2. We would split the cost and phase it in over a couple of years for the school district. COVID occurred, nobody was sure where the budgets were going to go, so Superintendent Greg Bailey requested, could we go back to a single SRO and split the cost 50-50? Fortunately, we had hired an additional SRO that covered for those first 2 years. After that, just the attrition in the police department, we were able to go back down to a single school resource officer without having to reassign or lay anybody off. So it's a pretty good deal at this point. The superintendent indicates that when they get back on their feet, start to see how this post-COVID world works, that they may very well approach us to go back to the two school resource officers, but right now, this is a way to keep the program going. They really enjoy the program, think it benefits them a lot. So it's been a good deal for both the school district and the city.
Just a couple questions. And is that mainly the high school?
Mainly the high school, but they move through all the schools. So they'll be at the high school for a while, but they'll go into the grade schools and the middle school as well. When we had 2, we had one at the high school, one at the middle school, and then they were each given grade schools. So they don't spend their majority of their time in the grade schools, but they do visit and go and do presentations and do walkthroughs.
And do they directly report to you or to the school district?
They directly report to Captain Dollinger, who oversees the SROs, but they work hand in hand with the superintendent and the principals of the schools.
As it says in the agreement that at all times, if possible, they will follow Moscow School District rules, but they are also bound as City of Moscow employees and Moscow Police Department employees to follow our personnel policies and procedures. So they seem to dovetail pretty well.
And they don't do, the SRO doesn't work anyplace else other than the schools, right? That's their job.
Yeah,
And with the-
other than in the summertime when school's out, they'll go to school programs, but they'll also augment into the patrol division.
Okay. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Consent agenda? Consent agenda.
Thank you.
Okay, and our last one is the comprehensive mutual aid agreements for fire assistance. Chief Nickerson, nice to see you today.
Good afternoon. The agreement hasn't been updated since, I think it's been 2005. So we kind of took a good hard look at it. There's some advantages to updating it. All the same partners are on the list as previously. However, we took a look at it to include not only mutual aid, but also what's called automatic aid. So we're working on all of our response plans to certain types of incidents throughout the community and so forth. We have a possibility of getting some credit for ISO, which is our insurance service rating, for our response plans if we include our partners in certain levels of response throughout the community or depending on the type of incident. So we incorporated that in as a mutual aid / automatic aid agreement. It just basically, it's written there for the ISO purposes, but also when we do finish our response plans, it'll actually indicate like, hey, Genesee and Pullman will come over on a first alarm house fire or commercial fire or whatever. So we'll actually get credit for that. So it kind of ties in with ISO stuff, but it's kind of just the verbiage that we needed to fulfill the obligations of the ISO requirements.
Chief, could you explain what the difference is between automatic aid and mutual aid where you request it?
Automatic aid is something in the response plan where we do not have to make a request. Basically, it's, as it says, it's automatic. Mutual aid would be, for example, we go to this fire or alarm, and then we just say, can you send another engine from, special request, if you will, from Potlatch or whoever. So basically, it ties it to a request versus an automatic. So the dispatcher will look at this response plan and go, okay, so Moscow, Pullman, Genesee, and Potlatch are assigned to this call. We need to make sure we do that automatically without even our knowledge of doing it, even though we know what the plan is, but it's all automatic. So, and basically what the intent of it is to reduce the amount of time it takes also for our command officers to have to remember, and Idler's Rest was a perfect example of trying to list everybody down, call everybody, you know, who's this, who's this, who's this, and we did skip one, even though they already knew they were going to come. But again, it was just an oversight because you're in the heat of the moment, and that's the thing about the response plans when we get them totally done, is everything will be second nature. You ask for a first alarm fire, that's what you'll get. Is you'll get certain units that are tied to that second alarm fire. It just keeps building, and basically, you're building it from a small circle to Moscow. First alarm, then the second alarm goes out, third alarm goes out, fourth alarm all the way down. We go all the way up to 5 alarms, which all the way includes all the way to Lewiston, Asotin, Orofino, so all those. So all those are included in our entire plan. Even though some of those aren't listed here, they still are part of our resources.
Are they all volunteer firefighters?
Not all of them. Pullman's not, Lewiston's not,
Okay, so I
Clarkston.
guess the question on that is, just on, it's not really related to this per se, but
Mm-hmm.
if in fact you get called out from, and you get people from Pullman, does Moscow have to pay them? Or
No.
they-
No, that's part of the agreement, because we go over there. So it's kind of that mutual, even though it's automatic, but it's all mutual. And that's the best part, is we have resources they might have, they have resources we need. So it's all, we've been over there twice in the last 3 months. So, which is, we've had them over here once, so, in the last few months. So it's a good resource to have.
No, it's a great resource to have.
And it's built, I'm glad you mentioned the volunteer, it's built that way to where if we contact three volunteer agencies, if we get 2 out of the 3, we're doing great. You know what I'm saying? So and it's built that way because volunteers might not be available during that time of the day of the week, day of the year. And it's okay. But it's built to where it's all self-sufficient and making sure we get resources. That's really what it's built on.
I mean, I'd also like to comment that there's always comes up a question in mutual aid agreements, what if you are called for mutual aid and it will strain your resources at home? Our resources at home will be assigned for home, and the chief will dispatch resources that can go to mutual aid that will not expose our community to undue risk. So, and that's the way it is all across the board, so that the community's resources are first spent on the community, then they're pooled to help out whoever calls for mutual aid.
Do you somehow then notify someone that says, we can only give you 4 people or something like that?
When a request comes in, and that's the one thing we're working on very hard, is make the request specific. If somebody else is calling us, don't say, send us everything you have. What does that mean? If you want an engine, ask for an engine. You want an ambulance, ask for an ambulance. Because that way we can balance our resources, because yes, we can send stuff, but we can have to keep things here too. Just an example was a couple of weeks ago when the shooting occurred over in Pullman. Well, we sent an ambulance over there because they had other calls pending, so they were stacking calls. So they went over there, and then we all of a sudden had another call out in Deary that we had to go to with a paramedic for a cardiac arrest. So they recognized it, and it's like, hey, if you guys need to go ahead and go. We got ours almost in service. So again, it's that partnership that we have and relationships that we have, I think is second to none. So yeah, we will not leave ourselves short or dry. And that's included in that response plan, is if we have a large-scale fire here, knock on wood, that we will have move-up people coming to handle our calls for us, from other areas and so forth. So that's all included within that.
Yeah, I think it's a good example of regional cooperation to help use everybody's resources most effectively, where you don't have to overdue financially for both crews and equipment to try to do it all yourself. When push comes to shove and things get kind of hairy, it's nice to know that you can rely on the other entities around us to help out when we need it, and vice versa, we help out when they need it.
Right.
So I think it's altogether a more efficient system. And one question is, are we updating this now because the agreement has run out, or just because it needs updating?
It just needs updating, and I wanted to include the automatic aid in it. Like I said, all the partners are pretty much all the same. It just needs to be updated, and we can include that automatic part and possibly get some credit for it.
Okay.
I had one question. I was curious about the inclusion of the couple private entities. What services do they provide? So Bennett Lumber Products and Clearwater Paper in particular that make them a good fit?
Bennett Lumber offers, they have water tenders. They also.
water what?
Water tenders, they haul water, which is just a resource, just an additional water resource. They've also just acquired a brush truck, and I hear they're getting ready to try to acquire a ladder truck. Potlatch Corp, basically they have a lot of technical rescue because of the environment that they have down there at the mill. They're required to have a lot of those resources that we don't have. We have some, but not the technology, or not the technical expertise that they have. So it's a resource that we can call as well.
Great. Thank you for the explanation.
Sure.
Consent agenda? Consent agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You bet. You bet.
Okay. The Smart Transit suspension of Saturday service report. Ben Amen, thank you for coming.
Good afternoon. Thank you to city staff for getting me on the agenda and for your time today. We really just wanted to get in front of this group and give a bit of an overview on what's happening in Smart Transit right now. As many of you have probably heard, we are going to pause our Saturday service beginning that first week in November, and that will be in effect until the end of April. So we worked really hard to coincide this pause with the farmers market, knowing that that's an important event for the city and the community at large. We felt that it was really tough to make any kind of change until after that point. This is all basically due to an acute driver shortage. We need about 7 full-time people to maintain our operations. That usually is supplemented with 1 to 2 part-time drivers. We are currently at 4 full-time people and have been able to onboard 2 part-time drivers. So we are at 3 part-time drivers and 4 full-time. So we're considerably low, and our staff is acting heroically to keep our service going Monday through Friday. Our vehicle availability was a factor, but the driver shortage was the main factor. Particularly with vehicles, our issue over the last year has been maintenance times and parts availabilities. So the same as every industry is seeing across the nation right now. We really want to put that emphasis, though, on predictability and reliability on the Monday through Friday schedule. So Saturday made the most sense. We have seen some decreased ridership on Saturday. We're at about a third what we would expect, generally speaking, pre-pandemic. Those numbers are a little skewed, but an example, on most Saturdays, we're doing between 5 and 10 rides on Dial-A-Ride, and probably about 100 rides on fixed routes. So most of the feedback we've received has just asked us to really take a hard look at our compensation package, which we are doing right now. And if approved, that could certainly require some additional ongoing funding from our main partners, and the city as one of the significant ones. Not to get too in the weeds during this session, but we're primarily, for our compensation review, looking at our wages, comparison to national and our regional and local service providers, our insurance benefits. We offer medical, dental, and vision benefits, making sure that those are as good as we can offer within our budget. We're looking at our paid time off benefits and are specifically tied with our holidays. We have about 8 holidays right now, so we're a couple short of what you would expect from a federal or state agency. That was kind of prompted with the addition of Juneteenth. It really wasn't on our radar, but we're going to look at that as an option. We'll look at potential retirement planning. Obviously, a lot of it's hit and miss with transit agencies in the state, whether they have access to Percy or not. We do not, but having some kind of an optional retirement plan is something that we would really like to look at. It's just such a standard anymore to see a retirement plan with full-time work, especially in transportation. So that's something that we're taking a hard look at, as well as our hazard pay program. We have a program that's paid through CARES Act funding. Currently, we offer $2 an hour differential premium that's paid out quarterly. We have some flexibility on duration and amount on that, as it is CARES Act funding. We'll likely look at that at the end of the calendar year, once our current authorization works its way through the board of directors. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions, any comments, concerns that you might have.
So I've got one that, because I already know the answer, but I think I'd like to just explore it a little bit. But
Sure.
could you highlight the software for tracking rides and schedules?
Absolutely. That's some of the good news that I was going to mention. So we were awarded just over $400,000 through CARES Act funding for technology grant improvements moving forward, and it is absolutely going to modernize our service. It'll have real-time vehicle locations from your cell phone. We'll be able to push rider alerts via text messaging, which is absolutely critical for being able to reach people outside of social media circles. Among other improvements that it'll have on our dispatch side, decreasing the time that we spend correcting errors on the back end. It's absolutely going to modernize our service. We are so excited for that. We're actually working through a regional partnership with Valley Transit out of Walla Walla. They actually put out, I believe it was 2018, they put out a FTA-approved RFP, and SMART was named as a possible beneficiary at that time. We are going to sign on and take advantage of that in order to buy hardware, buy the software, and have some free usage of the software for about a year. So it's a really exciting project. We're going to absolutely modernize the system. It's really great.
Start date?
We anticipate that they'll be able to install in April, May next year, somewhere in that range. So hopefully by next fall, we'll be up and operational. That grant had a 2-year time frame to be completed, so we're shooting for that time frame. So it's moving pretty fast now. So another positive note is our new website is under development. We plan to see that launch this year. We've been a little bit behind the times in that regard, but we're going to have a really great new modern website as well, and so that'll help get information out and be able to interact with the public at large. I mean, the other positive notes are we've seen Monday through Friday ridership stabilize and even improve, trending upward with the return of the spring semester the fall semester for University of Idaho, and our dial-a-ride has continued to increase. I mean, we're at pre-COVID levels for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday and Friday are a little slower. Saturday is almost non-existent, but that start of the work week for medical appointments it's extremely strong demand right now. So we do plan on putting some of the resources that were being expended on Saturday full-time to dial-a-ride Monday through Friday. So that'll really ease some of the burden on the drive staff. So.
Great. Thank you very much, and I appreciate the proactiveness of deciding, okay, we got this problem and how we're going to overcome it.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we can talk about
The lack of employees.
the lack of drivers. Okay, well, what are you going to do about it? And so that we're taking a proactive approach for sure. And I'm happy to provide any information on the back end if you'd like to see what we're doing. We'll present mostly to the board, and we're happy to share that with the city as well, so.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Okay, how about a staff report if needed?
We have no staff report needed, ma'am.
All right,
Okay, adjourn.
perfect.
Perfect, let's go.